So as everybody is waiting for Omens of Destruction to drop so it can be downloaded so we can all start playing it, I did want to talk a little bit about something that I think is actually the most exciting for me part of the entire DLC, and it's probably not what you're thinking. So let me preface by saying I was working on a video that was basically the three, I'm not going to call them bugs, but the three problems with Warhammer 3 that I most desperately want Creative Assembly to fix. And I'm not going to now do the same video that I was already starting to work on, because one of those issues in the game is something that I think this patch is actually going to fix. So I'm going to get to that for a second. So yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm excited about the additional content here. I'm excited about the new legendary lords. Of course, I'm looking forward to trying out the Khorne and the Ogre, and particularly the greenskin changes. But I want to go down all the way to these update 6.0. So this is what's going to happen to everybody, not just the people who buy the DLC. The improvements and adjustments, I'm going to go through all of this. I'm not going to read all this in detail, but there's a lot of here that's excuse me, that's actually stuff that I'm looking forward to. But I want to go all the way down here to bug fixes. Right here. So as I mentioned, the video that I was working on in terms of the issues that I would most like to see Creative Assembly address. And the way that I really think about this is the extra content is nice. Don't get me wrong. The extra legendary lords, the extra variety, the new mechanics, all of those things, absolutely things that I'm looking forward to. But I would be perfectly happy with the game right now if they never added any more content, but instead they decided to focus on fixing a few of the problems that I consider to be really pretty significant annoyances in the game. Now, the first one is something that those of you who have watched my Let's Plays already know about. They're not addressing that, which is the fact that you are so motivated to try to kill the enemy lord in battles because you get so much more in the way of loot post-battle as a result of it. But the problem with it being that it's so hard on legendary, very hard difficulty, particularly in the early game, with low tier units to do enough damage to actually take out the enemy lords. And so what you end up doing is you end up fighting 5 or 10 minute battles where you finally get your victory, but then you're spending another 5 or 10 minutes just running around trying to get the right units, attacking nothing but the enemy lord to try to bring him down before he runs off the map, quite often failing. And related to that is an issue with the fact that certain animations just don't work very well. There's chariots that just kind of push the enemy in front of them instead of ever actually attacking. Flying units don't always swoop down and attack correctly. Instead, they just kind of hover above and never actually attack. Little things like that. But I'll go into more detail in that other video if I ever do get around to doing it now. But one of the other really major problems in the game currently is the AI pathfinding, and it's most significant in walled city battles, particularly when you're the attacker, but it's also a problem when you're the defender. I'm going to go ahead and show a really quick highlight of something that happened recently in a battle where I had this unit that sallied out from the walls, and it was actually fighting out in front of the walls because that's where the towers could help support them and shoot into the enemy unit. No problem with all that. I tell them to go back in through the gate to get back inside, and the next thing I know, I'm looking a minute later, and what are they doing? They're climbing up the ladders that the enemy had actually thrown up there to try to attack. That kind of pathfinding issue happens all the time currently in walled city battles, and it's extremely frustrating. But maybe, just maybe, I'm holding out some hope here that it has now been fixed. So let's take a look at this. We've got battle AI fixed an issue where units that broke the gate would remain idle instead of entering the settlement. Yep, sure enough, I've seen that happen plenty of times as well. So you send in your unit, you break down the gate, you're looking for them, you realize they never bothered to enter the settlement. Not the worst thing in the world, because you just give them a new order and they'll go ahead and go in, but it just is more micromanaging that you shouldn't actually need to do. But here's where it gets really juicy. Fixed an issue where AI melee units would force path through archers on walls and become stuck, repeatedly switching between re-engaging and moving to a point. Melee units will now keep fighting if engaged on the wall. So we've seen in some of our battles in the walled cities, things like you get a unit up on the walls and you're fighting through the archers or whatever, and then you feel like you need to move some of your melee infantry down, let's say, into the city somewhere, take a control point or something like that. You walk away, or, you look at some other part of the battle, you come back after a minute or two, and you see that half of your unit has moved where you've asked them to, but now they're actually moving back in the wrong direction. They're moving back towards the walls instead of wherever you directed them to, because some of them got stuck and re-engaged whoever they were fighting on the walls, and the next thing you know, your units just have absolutely no cohesion whatsoever, and they essentially almost become completely worthless for the rest of the fight. Okay, so I'm hoping that gets fixed with this right here. Let's keep going here. Resolved an issue where when the AI settlement attackers' units entered the fort, they would return to attack the player's units on the wall instead of focusing on capturing the victory points. Sort of the same thing, except this is in reverse. This is the AI instead of the player. The behavior of flying lords has been slightly changed. They will now be more likely to attack in melee if they are the last unit standing or under fire. Yep, that's very good. Here's another really big one. Resolve the issue where missile infantry would engage in melee if they didn't have a clear line of fire, or when they fired at targets outside of range and accidentally entered melee with another unit. So this is obviously something that happens in field battles as well as settlement battles. It's a real issue in the game. You tell your missile infantry to shoot at somebody, and the next thing you know, they're charging forward instead of actually firing. So for some reason, and it's not always very obvious why, they didn't have a clear line of fire, and so instead of shooting like you asked them to, they just charge forward and try to engage in melee. It's absolutely extremely frustrating. Okay, I think those are the major things. I'm just going to really quickly glance at these others. Fixed an issue where, yeah, that's just specifically the Hawk Riders. Fixed an issue in Templehof with Invocation of Nehek. Okay, yeah. And then battering rams, I've seen this one happen as well. This is a weird one. With fixed an issue where battering rams would get stuck when approaching the gates at extreme angles. So that one, it's pretty rare. I wouldn't have called that one of the major problems, but I'm glad to see it getting fixed. But yeah, what I'm really hoping, and we don't know this yet, we're going to have to play and experiment and build up some data to find out whether or not these issues really have been fixed. But this, to me, is super exciting. I'm really glad that the developers are spending time fixing these problems, because I was really very much concerned that some of these, they've been a problem for such a long time. I was concerned that maybe they were just going to get ignored and never fixed. So anyway, I know that there's lots of other things to look forward to in this DLC, and believe me, I will certainly be playing the new Legendary Lords. I will be interested in checking out the new mechanics for all of these different races. Ogres in particular are one that I have very little experience with, and so I'm looking forward to seeing if they play a lot better than the kind of lackluster way that they played before. Khorne is definitely a fun one. I have to be in the right mood to play Khorne, but when I am, he's a really, really exciting campaign. Anyway, rather than ramble on, you get the point. There's lots of exciting things coming in terms of new content and changes to mechanics in this new DLC. I'm really looking forward to it. I do not expect it to be as good of a DLC as the previous one, the Thrones of Decay. That's partly because I'm very partial to Nurgle, but also I do think that it's pretty universally accepted that Thrones of Decay is one of, if not the best DLC that we've had in Warhammer. It would be very hard for this one to live up to that, but there's definitely some stuff to look forward to. I also have to patiently test and find out whether the current Let's Plays that I have going on the channel are going to be broken by these changes. Like, for example, now that they've added some new provinces, or at least new regions, to the world map. I'm a little bit afraid that that might break all of the existing campaigns, but it doesn't specifically tell me that they do. So I'll do some testing and find out. I'm sure SFO is going to take a little while to get updated as well, so I'm going to have to kind of put the Deathmaster Snitch campaign on hold until that gets updated, and whether or not we'll even be able to continue with that one, we won't know for a little while, but I'm hoping so. Fingers crossed. But in any case, while I'm waiting to get my hands on the new content and then to do some testing to make sure that the existing campaigns can continue to be played, I did want to talk about something that I think is just a highly underrated, underappreciated part of this DLC, which is what I'm expecting to be a significant improvement to one of the most significant problems with the game in its current state. All right, anyway, let me know what you guys think. I know that I have my own personal preferences in terms of the bugs or the design decisions or the whatever you want to call them, the little problems in the game that annoy me the most. I know that other people have their own thoughts as well, and I would certainly be welcome to hear whatever those are. So anyway, just a quick and easy little video here today on DLC Day. Hope that everybody's doing well. Looking forward to seeing you all in the upcoming campaigns, and I will see you then.